Last week, CBC News broke a bombshell story, the Canadian connection to a deadly act of international terrorism. We named the two Ontario men who died during an Algerian hostage-taking. Then we discovered another Canadian with an African terrorism connection. He's in a Mauritania jail, convicted of links to Al-Qaeda, but we did manage to get him on the phone. And all week, we revealed the ties that bound those three young men. All converted to Islam, all attended the same high school in London, a community suddenly asking itself difficult questions. Our Ioanna Roumeliotis went there as the news was unfolding.
Good morning, another busy morning in London. I want to begin with the local terror story.
For days, it kept unfolding.
It seems to have new developments every few hours.
A story hard to ignore, even harder to believe.
They're so young that they could have been brainwashed by anybody.
Frightening thought for a lot of people.
Like, what made these two individuals who they were and do these horrible things? How could this happen in London, kind of thing? Well, come on. It can happen anywhere in the world.
But it did happen here. Ordinary teenage boys who grew up to be terrorists. It's a chilling reality, and it's left behind an uncomfortable truth.
I've had callers call in and say that, yeah, you know what, I'm looking at everyone a little more suspiciously because there's no way you can know. When you know there are people allegedly capable of such evil acts that, you know, were walking amongst us months ago, that's scary.
Their faces are now familiar. Ali Medlej, Chris Katsirubas, and Aaron Yoon. Young men from middle-class neighborhoods, from a community high school where everyone knows each other.
I just remember Ali being a very good student, very smart.
Medlej was in Neil TENNEY's language classes.
To see him go from that, like your typical 14-year-old, to kind of a nice young man, into using words such as terrorist to describe Ali, I'm just blown away. I can't believe it.
South Secondary, it's been under a glaring spotlight since the news broke. This is where the three young men became friends, where they found a connection in Islam, and for at least two of them, something that would become much darker. BARB SONIER was the principal at South when the young men were students here, now facing questions about how those boys fell through the cracks.
Do you think schools should be playing a role in this kind of thing? Or can they do more, or should they do more?
Well, I think schools do play a role in student behavior, and it's really important to play a role in student behavior. And we're you know, whenever there is a concern, staff bring it forward.
SONIER can't divulge details of the boys' student records, but insists there were no red flags.
I can't imagine in all my years of education of watching someone change to that extent. I don't think I've ever experienced that. So, you know, students certainly change from grade 9 to grade 12. It's just so common. But to that extent, absolutely not. I did not witness that.
What or who planted the seeds of terrorism in the minds of these young men is still unclear, and why every link tying them together is now under intense scrutiny, including their religious beliefs. And that's left many in London's Muslim community feeling defensive.
On this evening, we meet 6 Muslim men in their 20s at London's oldest and largest mosque. They're all youth leaders, active in a community of 35,000.
Where do they get this idea from? Because it's not from religion, and I think, and I've always thought that religion is just being used as a tool, and now Muslims, now we have to be on the defensive because our religion is being hijacked by these people.
Our community, I mean, the Muslim community needs to do a jihad against these extremist ideologies. I was shocked when I heard about that these two people are from London. There is nobody in the community that I know that shares these, ideologies.
Is this a Muslim-specific problem? Is this unique to this community? Definitely not.
At Friday prayer, more distancing from the extremists who had reportedly come here, reportedly found it too open and tolerant. But if not here, some say other, more militant mosques can be places where radicalization can take root. SALIM MANSUR teaches politics at Western University in London.
There's a demonization of the West. And all of this happens in the mosque and happens in terms of people in authority speaking about it day in and day out, and most particularly on Fridays, giving sermons in the congregation. And these children have grown up, and some of them then act upon what they have absorbed.
A Muslim himself, he says he's been shunned by many Muslims here for his outspoken views on the potential of extremism in the community.
I mean, these three kids, I'm calling them kids, they are young people in the 20s, you know. You cannot expect them from Canada to end up in Algeria in a desert location, you know. How did they get there? Who provided them with the travel documents? Who assisted them in the logistics? You know, who transported them from one point to the other point? Who fed them? Who kept them? Who gave them the money? There's a whole network of operation here. So to stand up and say we don't know, we are all, you know, not part of the problem, well, then how did this happen?
Does that make you guys wonder about, you know, people in your own midst, in your own community?
It does. It does for sure.
Disturbing questions and an emerging willingness to tackle them.
I think when I first heard the news, I was scared. Not shocked, but scared, because if these guys are from London and allegedly maybe they found someone here who helped them out, then maybe we're not doing a good enough job to get to people's houses and see what's going on behind closed doors, right? So yeah, maybe they could have gotten the information from the internet, but honestly, if there was someone or some, you know, place in the community that's, you know, accepting these kind of ideologies, then we need to start getting out and finding them.
And already there seems to be a growing openness. At a monthly breakfast sermon, doors were open to the public at large. And then came this message.
I would like those young individuals to grow up in Canada saying that the West is not my enemy. The West is me. It's about time we stop propagating the notion that Islam is the East and the West is the anti-Islam. Those who want the world to believe that this is the case should not be allowed to propagate this negative thesis.
The Imam here says it is now a priority to engage Muslim youth who seem disenchanted. Already, he's had calls from parents.
I called on the parents to really come public and share their worries about their children with the staff of the Islamic Center. We know how to direct them to the professionals who can really come forward and do something, and that hopefully will discover potential problems at the root level before it will flourish into something that we really don't like.
And that is the unsettling truth, that people here are now forced to look within and face a shadowy threat that not so long ago seemed much further away. Ioanna Roumeliotis, CBC News, London, Ontario.